Hey YouTubers, welcome back to Desert Have a Garden. Today I am doing another video response to Pastor Joe Fox on the channel Viking Preparedness. So he has issued his third challenge to his Patreon subscribers, and this challenge is packing and unpacking your bug out bag and making sure it's something you can actually carry. So I will have links to the other two videos probably at the end of the video, but maybe up here in the corner. I'll put the links to the previous two challenges up there. And I think the first thing I want to talk about is, what does a bug out bag mean to me? So I live in an area where we have relatively few natural disasters. We don't have any major fault lines, so we don't get earthquakes, we don't get tornadoes here, we don't get hurricanes. No crazy weather. We get monsoons, but there's no severe flooding or anything like that, no risks. However, we do get extremely high temperatures in the summer, so it's not uncommon for us to get a full week of days that are in the mid 120s. And at nighttime it doesn't really cool off, so it could stay up to 110 at night. So if there were an air conditioner, say we had a power outage that was going to last, that would be problematic for us. It would be very difficult. However, we do have a backup generator here at our house to make sure, in the case of a power outage, that we're good for a while, but there always could be an opportunity for a reason to have to leave our home. For example, we are in a pretty isolated community, and if we were cut off from restocking of the stores, for example, and we didn't have access to additional food and supplies and things like that, that may be a reason that we would have to leave. And we are also in a main corridor for an escape from California. So that could, if there was some sort of unrest in California and people were leaving California and coming through this area, we might not want to stick around for that. So, but that's what a bug out bag would mean for us, is if we needed to get out of town, but the first thing we would do is obviously take a vehicle. So a bug out bag would get into our vehicle, and we would get as far as we could in our vehicle, hopefully all the way to our bug out location, which is, I don't know, about an hour and a half away from here. We have our high desert homestead. So that's where we would be heading. Now, if the roads were blocked off, because there's only one main road in and out of town. I guess there's two ways. So there's Highway 95 to the north and Highway 95 to the south. And if those were blocked for some reason, we do have an alternate path that we could go through the desert. So my husband has done extensive off-roading, and we've utilized those trails, and so there is an alternate way that we could go. So a bug out bag would be something going into the car, and hopefully we would be able to make it all the way in our car to our location. But if there were something causing us to have to leave the vehicle for some reason, maybe the path were blocked and we couldn't get through, then that's when we would have to leave the vehicle, put on a bug out bag, and finish the rest of the way on foot. So that's not something we really want to do. But in the case it does happen, you want to be able to handle it. So at this point in my life, I have 3 kids and a husband, and so for me, the primary thing that I need in my bug out bag is my 4-year-old son. So I can't pack this full of all kinds of cool gear and necessities and extras for myself, because my primary concern is getting that big old 4-year-old into the bag and being able to carry him, because if we're needing to get somewhere, I mean, if we're bugging out, there's a reason. We're not on a leisurely hike here, and he can't go as far, he can't go as fast, he doesn't stay focused, and so I would need to carry him. So that really limits what I'm able to carry, but I can still carry quite a bit because we do go backpacking and hiking, and I carry him regularly. Usually I don't go more than about 40 pounds when I'm carrying him, and well, let's see, like maybe 45 pounds. Now he's all the way up to 36 pounds. So obviously within the next year, this is going to change for me, because he's going to get too big and too heavy for me to carry. And additionally, he's going to get better at hiking on his own. So that's something we're working on alternatively. So sometimes he hikes and he's getting the workout and getting stronger himself. But without further ado, let's get into what I can carry and what I feel is the most important thing for me to carry. So first things first is water. I mean, if you can't carry anything else, you have to carry water. So I'll carry a gallon of water, and a gallon of water is what, like 7 pounds, something like that. It's pretty heavy. And then I'll carry 2 additional bottles that are for drinking out of, and those will go into the side pockets of my bag. The next important thing is probably food. So there's this handy kit, a 72-hour kit that has, I think, 4 different 4-serving meals in there, and they're really simple. So basically it's just boil water and add the contents of the packets. It's not like good food as far as if you're worried about your health, but if you're in a desperate situation and you need calories, this will work. Additionally, for food, you want things that are light but are going to give you the most power for the weight. So I have a pack of pecans. So nuts give you a whole lot of energy for the weight. They're 21 grams of fat in just 1 serving, and this pack has 7 servings. I threw in a couple of bars. These additionally have very high fat content. They have a lot of coconut oil in them. And last but not least, a couple little packs of nut butter. So there's not a whole lot in the way of food here. So ideally, it wouldn't be necessary and we could stay in our car. But if you have to use the bag, we do have some food that we could eat along the way. But you can go longer without food than without water, so obviously that's a consideration. Now, if you're cooking, you need to be able to start a fire to heat up that water. So I have these little fire starters. Each one burns for 5 to 10 minutes, and they burn nice and hot, so they're really good at starting a fire. In order to start that fire, around here somewhere, I think they're inside the bag. I'll have to find them in one of the pockets. I have a lighter. Oh, I'm losing my organization here. So I keep, this set has a pot, so included it has a dish for serving, and it has a handle on it. Inside I keep the little stove, and I've shown you in the other video how I used this. There's the little stove, and that, next are the matches and lighter. Always a backup way of lighting a fire. The stove hooks right onto the top of the fuel canister, so that's how you cook. And then there is a pot with a handle, and then another dish. And this one has an insulated thing on it, so if you needed to keep something warm for a while. So, for example, you need to boil the water to make those meals. Boil the water and put it in here and put the lid on and let it hydrate for a little while. So you don't want it to get cold while it's hydrating, so the insulator really helps. So all of that packs into this nice little contained area, and this is what we use for our backpacking. So we've used it quite a bit, and it's lightweight. Very nice for that, and it's all contained into one little area, which makes it nice when you're doing a task that it's all in one area. Okay, so that covers our food and water and our way to cook and make a fire. Out in our desert, there's a lot of dry brush, so it's easy to get wood. I mean, it's not really like good wood, but it's enough to make a fire. Additionally, I do have an extra cup in here. So if we were serving, so that has 1, 2, 3, that would make 4 serving dishes. And then a couple of lightweight sporks. All right, next, lighting. I have a couple headlamps. So again, this bag is just for me and my 4-year-old. So I have a couple of headlamps that we could use at night in the dark. Always have a pocket knife. You never know when you'll need to cut something open, such as the packaging, or for any reason you need to cut something. You always have a little pocket knife. Additionally, for protection, my EDC Ruger LCP goes into a front pocket of the bag. And personal care items are also really important, but we're minimal because this is going to be so much weight to have to consider. Toilet paper, the big roll. So you don't want to be in a situation, even if we're driving in a car, you've got to have toilet paper. If you've got a family and a big group of people, someone's going to have to go to the bathroom, you want toilet paper. So I just bring a big roll because I have the space for it and it's not heavy. It's worth it to have toilet paper. I also bring wet wipes for cleaning hands, or you know, if you get really messy from something, a wet wipe is very handy to have. Additionally, hand sanitizer is good, because if you do use the restroom and then you want to prepare food or eat food, you don't want those germs. So hand sanitizer for everybody. And then a couple of cheapo toothbrushes, and because if you're out for a couple days, I mean, dental health is important, and it's just one of those things that could make you a whole lot more comfortable. If you're used to your mouth feeling clean, you'll feel a lot better if your teeth are clean. That's important to me, so that goes in my bag. Also, I have a contacts case and a couple extra pairs of contacts because I do wear contacts. Ideally, my glasses would come with me, but because I keep those in my bathroom, it's not guaranteed that they're going to make it into the bag if we're in a rush situation for some reason. That brings me back to the other reason that there could be an emergency here. The only thing we can think of as like a real emergency type of thing would be the Hoover Dam. So if the Hoover Dam busted, we're downstream from the Hoover Dam, that could cause quite a huge flood. And that's a highly unlikely situation to happen. But if it did happen, that's a big deal. We would definitely have to get out of Dodge, get away from a floodwater of the Hoover Dam. So last thing, here we go. A sleeping bag. This is a really lightweight, small sleeping bag. It's only one. But if we had to sleep out in nature, it's better than nothing. My little 4-year-old and I could cuddle up in there. We'd have some protection from the elements. We wouldn't be super cozy or comfortable, but we live in an area where it's not really cold. It's very temperate, and I think we would be fine, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. Some other things that we keep handy that wouldn't necessarily go in the bag, we keep in a closet by the front door, are hiking shoes, the hiking poles, because when I wear this much weight, I have to have the hiking poles in order to balance out my weight and keep me from tripping and falling, that kind of thing. Plus it relieves the weight off of your back. So hiking poles and hats, we keep those in the cupboard, and a light sweater. So those are things we would definitely throw in the car. Now, if we had to take off in the car, sure, we would throw like extra gallons of water and stuff into the car. And the other kids have their own bug out bags. They didn't want to do a video on their bug out bags, but my oldest son is 12, and he is quite strong and an excellent hiker. He carries our first aid kit for the family, so that's pretty extensive. The 8-year-old, or sorry, she turned 9. Our 9-year-old daughter doesn't carry as much weight, but she is able to carry her own water and her sleeping bag that keeps her cozy. And I'll probably attach another video of the 4-year-old and his bug out bag. I think it's really interesting to see what's important to other people. And so while it may not be something that's practical, it could be more like a comfort thing that goes into the car, and if you have to ditch it, you have to ditch it. But it's interesting to see what's important to different people. So I'm curious what's important to you guys. If you want to put it down in the comments, if you feel like something I've included is not important and there's something that's more important to put in there, just put it down in the comments. I mean, I'm always open to ideas and suggestions, and we all just hope that it's something that's never necessary. But better safe than sorry, right? So next thing is the bag. So this bag, I've been really happy with it. This is an Osprey Poco Premium, and it is a child carrying pack. So child goes in here, and it expands and it's adjustable. Let's see, I think I have it on the medium height. I am pretty average sized woman. I'm 5'4", average weight. So this has worked really well for me. It has great support waistbands and all kinds of pockets and storage. So there's way more room in this pack to stuff into, more than what I can carry. So there's definitely excess space here. But I will zoom in down on here and begin to show you how I pack everything into it. Okay, now you can see the bag. Down here in the bottom of the bag is this huge open space. This is gigantic. Now, normally when we're backpacking and hiking, I press this down and it folds up a lot more slim. So when we're backpacking, this is a slim area and I'm able to get through tight squeezes. But if this is for bug out purposes, I'm going to need that space, and so it opens up, and this is what allows the bag to sit steadily on the ground like this while you're putting the child in and out. So it's its own base, which is really cool. So in this gigantic pocket here is where I will be putting the gallon of water. So that doesn't have to be handy, that's for refills. And the cooking tin with the stove and the fuel all go in here, as well as our cup. Oh, I don't think I had mentioned these previously. Just because they're lightweight, I put in a few hot hand warmers. That way, if it does get really cold at night, we can put these in by our feet or something like that, and it can help warm us up. A little extra comfort item for low weight. Those go in there. Our fire starters go into the big pouch. Toilet paper goes in here. And what else? The wipies can go in here. So this is keeping a lot of the weight really low in the pack, because the way my son sits in here, his bottom's way up here. And so that kind of puts the weight higher up on my back, and that can cause you to lose balance more easily. So with more weight down in the lower part, that helps keep my balance and keep me steady on my feet. You definitely don't want injuries. And then if I can get the food in here, it goes right in this pocket. Okay, and this whole thing zips right up. Now, you may see these extra straps hanging around, and that is because the backpack does detach. So this whole little backpack can detach as a day pack off of here. Like, this is the coolest backpack ever, let me tell you. So this can detach off of here, and I can wear this as a day pack if I'm not carrying the boy. And then that's less on the chair. But for this purpose, obviously, the 4-year-old's my priority. So he's coming with us. Zip this right back on here. Has a little hook to hook it onto the top. All right, zipping it back on. So in here, there's just one main pouch, and then there's a small pouch up here, which I do have another item in here. I do have aspirin. That's just in case. I have had heart problems in the past. I've been doing really well for the last several years. That's just a precaution to have aspirin in there. So in here, in the bottom, I'm going to put the sleeping bag. That gets way down in there. Put in toothbrushes, contacts, right in there. And then in comes the food that you want to get a little more convenient than out of the bottom. So you've got the cans, the bars, the nut butters, our sporks. Those could have really gone in the bottom, but really it doesn't matter. And headlamps. Get in there. That part zips up. Over here on the sides, one on each side, I tuck in a water bottle, so while I'm hiking, I can just reach these out and drink them, as well as my son. He can reach them out, and we can just keep moving. I don't have to stop, I don't have to take off the pack or do anything like that. So there's our 2 extra water bottles, and then we move over to the front of the pouch. This pouch, you can put a cell phone or something like that in, and that could be something that we would include. These pouches here, it's actually really great. The LCP fits perfectly right in there. So that is handy on the waist. You don't want that to be where you can't reach it. So there it goes there. Also, on this side we have the knife and the hand sanitizer, so that's handy. I have actually a couple extra little Kleenexes in here. So while you're hiking, if you need to blow your nose, sometimes when you're out in the elements, your nose gets a little runny. Zip that up. I always like to have a couple extra carabiners. So these can go anywhere. I mean, there's like unlimited places to hook stuff on here, but I just put it on the back. So I have carabiners, so if for some reason I have to attach something last minute, there it goes, right onto the carabiner, and it's perfect. So here is everything tucked in, nice and neat. I weighed it, and with my son, so he's 36 pounds, altogether it's just over 60 pounds, the pack. And that's a lot of weight for me to carry, but I can. And it's not something I like to do, and I wouldn't do it on a normal basis, but it definitely can be done. So let me grab him, throw him in, show you how that works, and put on the pack. Oops. Let's get the microphone over here. There we go. All right, here is the sad 4-year-old. This is the guy that is super important to me, cannot be left behind. My most important bug out item is this guy. So let me show you how he gets in here. So it's all packed up, we're loaded up with all of our weight, and here we're going to inchworm him in. So you can see he's getting a little big for the pack. So things are going to be changing for us in the next year. But for now, he can still fit in here. So he wiggles right down in there, and we buckle him in for safety.
You're funny, Mom.
Yep. And one feature I didn't show you guys about this backpack that's also really cool is the sunshade. So if you're out in the sun, you don't want your little dude getting roasted. You snap this and snap this, and he has a little sunshade. So how cool is that? You fold up your arms. He usually folds up his arms because this is where my back is, and he kind of leans on his arms for like rest. He kind of leans like that. Okay, so his feet go into little pockets down here. Let me see if I can angle it down. So down here, there's little stirrups for his feet so they can be comfortable. You don't want too much weight on his hips hanging there.
Mom,
so his foot's there.
My leg might get sunburned.
Yeah, his little legs could get sunburnt like this. Hopefully we would have some pants on to keep those little legs covered. So his feet are down here in the stirrups. And now I have this super heavy pack I have to get on. It's really hard for me to get it on and off by myself. My 12-year-old is going to help lift it up onto my back. Ideally, we would have my husband, and he has a whole bunch of other stuff in his pack, but he works on the other side of town. This town is pretty spread out, and if something were to happen and I had to get the kids in the car and get out of here, we need to have what we need to have. And so that's kind of the plan we're operating on right now. Obviously, my husband can carry more weight. he has a whole lot of other stuff in his pack, including a tent and things like that that are more comfort items for us. So let me have my son help me get the other son on my back. Okay, so I open up the waistband and I usually get the one shoulder in here first, and then we lift him up. So make sure you're folded up and ready in there. Ready? 1, 2, 3, lift. Okay. So I get one arm in there, and then this is here, and then the other arm. Can you help me with the other arm? I already have it all cinched up where I need it, so it's a little bit hard to get in. There we go. Get this hair out of the way. All right, there's a chest strap. And right now all the weight's on my shoulders. So I kind of cinch it up there. And then cinch up the waist. So I put all the weight on my hips here. He's got his feet hanging out in his stirrups. And this is how we look for our bug out bag. So it's pretty big, it's pretty heavy, but it's definitely doable. And this is just what's important to me. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more updates in the future.